Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that sounds, well, pretty out there. We're looking at a new scientific review asking a pretty wild question. Could the key to treating traumatic brain injury actually be found in a psychedelic mushroom?
I know, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right? But this is a real, fascinating, and fast-moving story. It's happening right at the intersection of neuroscience, medicine, and public policy. And we're going to focus on the potential of psilocybin. Yep, that's the psychedelic compound in so-called magic mushrooms to treat something incredibly serious, traumatic brain injury.
Okay, so to really get why this new research is such a big deal, we first have to understand the problem it's trying to solve. And it's a huge one. We're talking about traumatic brain injury, or TBI, which is this massive and frankly often invisible challenge.
For decades, TBI has been just notoriously difficult to treat. I mean, you can feel the frustration from doctors and policymakers. They've been asking forever what really works, and the honest answer, for way too long, has been not much. And that's left millions of people, including a huge number of military veterans, facing these long-term, really debilitating challenges.
But what if a potential answer has been hiding in plain sight this whole time, inside a fungus of all things? Well, a groundbreaking new review, this one published in the journal Brain Science, decided it was time to take a serious, hard look at that exact possibility.
So a team from the Hackensack Meridian School of Medicine, they didn't do a brand new trial themselves. Instead, they did something that's arguably just as important. They pulled together all the existing research. They went through 29 different published studies to basically ask, okay, what does all the science, when you put it together, really say about psilocybin?
And what they found, well, it's a pretty powerful statement. Their big conclusion was that using psilocybin with professional support may have benefits in TBI. But they didn't just stop there. They went on to say it has the potential to maximize recovery. I mean, maximize. That's a really bold claim, right? So let's get into how in the world it might actually work.
Okay, so what's the actual theory? I mean, how could a psychedelic compound physically help an injured brain? The review points to a few really specific biological mechanisms that have the scientific community buzzing right now.
All right, so the researchers zeroed in on three main ways psilocybin might help the brain heal itself. First up, it's anti-inflammatory. It could help calm down that chronic inflammation that often happens after a TBI, which can cause even more damage. Second, and this one is huge, it seems to promote neuroplasticity. You know, that's the brain's incredible ability to rewire itself, to form new connections, and basically find workarounds for damaged areas. And third, since so many TBI patients struggle with depression, its powerful antidepressant effects could be a massive piece of the puzzle for their overall recovery.
Now this right here, really captures where we're at with the science. On one side, you've got all this incredible promise. I mean, the review found it doesn't even seem to increase the risk of seizures, which is a really common and serious worry with TBI. But then, on the other side, you have the hurdles, and they're real. There are concerns about bad trips and psychological side effects, and the big one, we just need more rigorous, controlled clinical trials to figure out how to do this safely and effectively.
And that leads us to the central conflict in this whole story. Because the biggest thing stopping those much-needed clinical trials, it isn't a lack of interest from scientists. Nope, it's the law.
You see, psilocybin is classified as a Schedule I drug, and by definition, that means the federal government says it has no currently accepted medical use. See the catch-22? How are you supposed to prove it has a medical use if the law makes it almost impossible to even do the research? The authors of the review pointed this out specifically, saying its classification just limits rigorous scientific exploration.
But here's the thing, that legal roadblock is starting to crumble, and it's happening because of a surprisingly broad, bipartisan push for change. Seriously, the momentum in Washington is shifting, and it's shifting fast.
I mean, you can't get a clearer signal than this. The FDA commissioner himself, Robert Califf, has said that exploring psychedelics is a top priority, especially when it comes to helping military veterans. He's basically calling to cut the red tape and actually listen to patients who are saying, hey, this stuff worked for me when nothing else did.
And it's not just the FDA. The Department of Veterans Affairs is also signaling a massive shift. This isn't just talk, you know. This is a fundamental change in direction coming from the very top, and it's all being driven by the urgent needs of our veterans.
And just look at this coalition that's building.
You've got the VA secretary meeting with advocates. You've got a bipartisan congressional caucus pushing for $30 million in funding. The momentum is just undeniable. It's building all across Washington. In fact, the VA is already funding studies on MDMA-assisted therapy, which just shows you the door is definitely opening for these kinds of new treatments.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. What do we have? We've got promising science, still early, but promising, that points to a totally new way to help heal the brain. We've got these old laws that are standing in the way, but now we've also got this powerful new political will coming from both sides of the aisle that's pushing the system to speed up the research that we just desperately need.
And that leaves us with one big final question. We're really in this moment of transition, right? The science and the policy are finally starting to line up. So the question really isn't if we should research this anymore. The real question is, how fast can we get the solid answers we need to potentially revolutionize how we treat one of the most devastating injuries a person can ever go through?